I'd like to start the evening off with a quick land acknowledgement first before we introduce our staff members. So I would like to acknowledge that the UBC's Vancouver Point Grey campus is situated on the traditional, ancestral, unceded territory of the Musqueam people. We would also like to acknowledge that you are joining us today from many places, near and far, and acknowledge the traditional owners and caretakers of those lands. So a little agenda for tonight. We're going to go through a quick PMBA overview. We're going to have a presentation from our wonderful PMBA career coaches, Wendy and Marja. And then we're going to have a Q&A session and alumni panels. So just to introduce everyone that's in the room tonight. So we have some staff members here, myself, Vivian. I also have my friend and colleague, Kevin Lee, who is also a current PMBA student. So he's a great person. If you have any questions to ask him in the chat box, he has the perspective of someone that's in the program itself. And then I also have my wonderful colleague, Keith Lai, who is our marketing coordinator. And then, of course, our special guests tonight are Wendy Mann. You can see on the screen there with Marja there. Wendy, you could please send us a wave, and also Marja Harmer. So both Wendy and Marja are PMBA career coaches, and they're going to do a special session for you tonight after this quick PMBA overview that I'm going to do. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us tonight. Of course, we also have our amazing alumni panel from different industries and even different parts of the world joining us today. They might not be here just yet, but you could look forward to talking to them later during our alumni panel. We have Joyce Ip, who is a founder of Lumen Consulting, Aaron Kaiway, who is a software engineering manager at Intel, Zach Lim, who is a site leader at Amazon, Prabh Saini, who is a technology consulting manager. In fact, I actually just noticed on LinkedIn that he was just promoted to senior manager. So we all got to give him a big congrats for that. And then, of course, we also have Diana Trifonova, who's joining us actually from Calgary. And she's working in the healthcare sector as a zone clinical department manager with the Alberta Health Services. They're going to be joining us a little bit later tonight. So thank you all for joining us on this beautiful sunny evening. I hope you all had your fair share of lots of sunshine during this wonderful few days of sunshine that we had in Vancouver. And I hope you find tonight's event insightful and inspiring as to what this program can do for you, and find yourself inspired by what the program has done for other people in the past. So why a UBC PMBA? So this program rests on a number of different pillars. I would say that there's a strong focus in this program of experiential learning, global opportunities, and personalized career development. It is a 24-month part-time program. So what it allows our students to do is basically be able to grow their career organically as they go through the program. So what we find in the part-time program is the students are able to actually use their own workplaces as experiential learning opportunities for them to learn, bring value added that they learn from the PMBA program, and basically prove themselves ready for a promotion as they go through the program. And we'll go quickly over some of the career outcomes during this presentation, but you can see that some of these outcomes are very substantial, and it's a very organic process in terms of how students attain these types of career advancements. We also have a great reputation. I know you have a large number of different local opportunities you can choose from in terms of different MBA programs, but I think where Sauder really stands apart is that we have, of course, a really tremendous local reputation in the MBA market in Vancouver. So you got a good local kind of reach when you do the PMBA program at UBC, but we also have a great global reputation as well. We're ranked the #1 business program in Canada, #1 in Canada for business and economics, and we also have 43,000 alumni in 80 countries around the world. And that's just the UBC Sauder alumni network. That doesn't encounter the larger UBC alumni network, which is 300,000 alumni in 140 countries around the world. So there's a tremendous amount of global reach. And I'll talk about some of the global offerings available through this program a little later in this presentation. But another thing to keep in mind is that when you join UBC, you're not only just joining a top-notch business school, but you're also joining a center for thought leadership in the world. UBC is one of the top 40 universities in the world. So you're not just joining a tremendous business community, but you're joining a community of thought leadership, research, and innovation that you can connect with through this program. So if you decide, if you're an entrepreneur and you're looking for a stellar computer programmer to help you program that app you've always wanted to program, you probably find that talent right in the UBC community. And that's one of the really exciting parts about joining an institution like UBC, is that you're joining a center of thought leadership and you're finding the talent within this community itself to make your aspirations come true. So the program is a weekend only program. So it is fully consistent with a full-time work schedule. So you can see that it's typically you do 2 courses on an 8-week cycle, one on Saturday and another on Sunday. And then it's kind of 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off. And then you get a 2-week break before you have the exam for those 2 courses. And then by the next 8-week cycle, you would be on to the next 2 courses. So that's roughly how it works out in the program. And basically it would work out approximately to once or twice a month, you'll have a weekend of classes. So it does work out that you're not in classes every weekend, but there's many weeks in between where you'd be working on projects with your classmates, but you'd have time off to kind of assimilate the information and also work on experiential projects as well. So we are global. So like I was saying before, there's a number of different global opportunities you can engage in with the UBC PMBA program. Then the global experiences include the Global Network of Advanced Management, and this is a network that's spearheaded by the Yale School of Management, and it includes 30 leading business schools from diverse regions, countries, and cultures all around the world, including institutions like Yale, Berkeley, HKUST, HEC Paris, Oxford. So really tremendous opportunities to learn in these global network institutions. And the mode of learning includes anywhere from these global network weeks that are run at different institutions. So there's usually 2 periods in the year where you can go on a physical global network week at one of these institutions, or you can even do courses online, so small network online courses. Now you can see these are some sample themes from past years, and you can see there is usually a regional or thematic bent to these network weeks. You can see the Haas School of Business at Berkeley ran a network week on Bay Area innovation and entrepreneurship. Yale ran one on the behavioral science of management. UBC ran its own network week on sustainable development goals. So you can often see a regional or institutional bent to these network weeks, and they do go back as elective credits back towards your MBA. Now we also have our traditional study abroad program. So this is the program for those of you that have done these in undergrad. There's a bit more traditional in that sense, where we have 36 institutions on 6 continents around the world. So basically anywhere you want to go, we probably have a partner there. And you go for anywhere as short as 2-week longs to like almost a semester long of exchange at various institutions around the world. These are just 2 examples from Europe that are very popular. So the Copenhagen Business School and ESSEC in Paris is obviously a very popular choice as well. Experiential learning is a key pillar of how this program is run. So this is this idea of learning by doing, and you do this through a focus on case-based learning. We also have these 3 8-day residencies that run in the beginning, middle, and the end of the program. So this is what the program looks like, the first year of it. So you can see the first year of the program are foundational courses. So your MBA basics in accounting, finance, statistics, human resources, marketing, and then in the next year of the program, you'll be on to advanced module courses. These are all the courses that you'd be doing. Now, you can see in the beginning, middle, and end of the program, you'll have these professional residency periods. And these are for pedagogical reasons, as well as reasons to bring the cohort together in 3 strategic periods of time in the program. So basically these residencies are 3 8-day intensive learning periods where we expect students to kind of learn full time. And obviously it serves pedagogically, but it also serves to kind of bring the cohort together and have you guys become each other's best source of academic, social, and career support as you go through the program, and basically gives you an opportunity to dive in full time in the context of a part-time learning environment. So these residency periods are an essential part of this program, and they run in the 1st January, the 2nd January, and then 2nd January there, and then the last December of the program. Now you can see career and professional development run the course of this program, so they are an integral part of your experience in the PMBA program. And You can also see that a lot of the global opportunities were run in the second part of the program. So those kind of optional global opportunities are there for you to take advantage of in the second part of the program. And also in the second year of the program, it's also, if you have the flexibility in your schedule, to swap out some of these courses with our full-time MBA cohort. And even 1/3 of your degree can be done at different departments at UBC, provided you have the prerequisites to take that course and you have the approval of your academic manager and that course instructor. You can take that course maybe in the Faculty of Law, or maybe in the, a data science course in the Faculty of Computer Science, if you have the prerequisites for it, to complement your degree in that way. So again, leveraging that community of thought leadership, global thought leadership and community of global excellence to your advantage when you're doing the PMBA program. Personalized career development is an integral part of this program, and I'm going to leave Wendy and Marja to talk more about this. You can see tremendous career outcomes from our students in the program. 90% on average will get at least one career advancement or career promotion during the 24 months of the program. So you can really see that impact of kind of organic career change as students are going through the program. And just some examples here, you can see that people are generally moving from more operational to more strategy and leadership roles. You can see someone who is, they fall in two broad categories: career changers, so people that are changing oftentimes job types and job industries, and then career promoters, so people that are staying within the same company and then maybe moving up into more leadership strategy roles. So you can see someone who was a career changer, was a program manager at an e-commerce service provider, became a senior associate of venture capital at First Block Capital post-program. And in terms of career promotions, you can see someone who is an account manager of commercial banking at RBC, became a VP of corporate client group post-program in the same, in RBC itself. So you can see that change, whether students are career changers or career promoters, that change from more operational level statuses to more strategy and leadership track or C-suite level track roles once they're done once they're going through or done the program. A little snapshot of the last entry cohort that we had. Class size of 54, and this was just only because we had to cap the class size due to COVID considerations. So you can expect the class size to be anywhere between 54 to 60 students max. So a small class profile. You can see average years of work experience is 7, but we have a range of ages. Last year's, the students range anywhere from 28 to 43. So there's not really like an ideal age that we're looking for this program. We're looking for people that are ready to benefit from this program. So whether you're on the younger side of the spectrum or on the older side of the spectrum, don't count yourself out just because you don't fit into the average age. Have a discussion with me. Like, I'm going to send an email after this event to connect with anyone that's interested in connecting for a one-to-one advising session, and we can always look at your profile on a case-by-case basis and see if this program is what you're ready to do and ready to benefit from. You can see also students come from a range of different undergraduate majors. So I often get the question of whether I'm from the right undergraduate major to do this program, and the answer is yes. You can also see from our alumni profile that they come from a range of undergraduate majors themselves. And so this program is appropriate for anybody that's ready to get strategic business education that will help benefit their career, no matter what industry they're from and no matter what undergraduate major they came from. And so you can see work experience by industry is also quite varied as well. And that also just is a benefit because students get to learn from people that work in totally different industries, that have different ways of thinking, and enrich their learning experiences by the diversity that's within the classroom itself. So these are just some academic requirements for applying to the program. So generally we're looking for a B+ average. If you don't meet this requirement, don't panic. Always check with us first, connect with me and talk about if you are off by a certain percentage or, whatever it is. This is just a guideline, right? Ideally you're at a B+ average, but we know that for a lot of you, you can't go back and change your undergraduate major. So don't think that just because, you failed first year calculus, that this isn't right for you. There's ways to mitigate lower grades. And that would be actually through the next point here, the standardized testing. So either the GMAT at a competitive score of 650 or GRE at a competitive score of 320. So if you are lower on your GPA, this is one way to mitigate that. Now, there's also opportunities for those that scored really well in their undergraduate degrees, either from a core BCom background or from a quantitative subject matter. There's also opportunities for GMAT GRE waivers as well. If you come from those backgrounds, like quantitative backgrounds or BCom backgrounds, and you scored very well, then there's the opportunity to also get a waiver. Now, for those of you that didn't score well, then you want to look at the standardized tests, and those are the competitive scores that we have listed there. Professional experience, we're generally looking for a minimum of 2 years, but ideally it's kind of like 3 to 5 plus. If you are just at the 2 years, reach out for a conversation, and we can talk about like what your interest is in pursuing a PMBA early in your career and whether it's right for you. And then in terms of professional references, we're looking for at least 2. At least one needs to be from someone that you report directly to. And then another one could be someone that knows you well in professional context. There's a variety of written and video essays that are really quite short, so you really want to be succinct and not too general when you're answering these questions. The video essay, it's a 90-second video that you prepare in advance, you upload to YouTube or Vimeo. Just a note on that, we're not looking for like an Oscar-winning video production. We know you're busy professionals, so like just looking for really good content, and then, like just show up the way you would show up at a job interview. So if you do have really good video editing skills and you have the time to create an awesome video, absolutely feel free to do that, but we're not looking for that. So don't panic if you're not a videographer. We're just looking for good content, and just use your best judgment, show up the way you would in a job interview. And that's like really what we're looking for. We're looking to learn who you are and whether this program is right for you. English proficiency tests are only required if you did not do a degree program, either a bachelor or a master's and so on in English. So if you did do a degree program in English, then that would count as a waiver of the English proficiency test requirement. If you have to write the English proficiency test, we're looking for either a 7 average on the IELTS academic or 100 on the TOEFL. The personal interview would be the last stage of the process, and that would be like a 30 to 45-minute interview at the end. Just again, another opportunity for us to learn more about you and whether this program is a good fit for your career goals. These are some of the deadlines. So the first deadline has already passed. We're looking now at the July 20th deadline, which is our merit scholarship deadline. So we do have a small number of merit-based scholarships for the first time for the PMBA program. So do try to submit your application early if possible. So note that we admit on a rolling basis. So don't hold your application all the way to July 20th if you're trying to make that second round deadline. Apply in between as well, because we start assessing applications as they come in. So it is your to advantage. If I was to give you a big tip right now, is to even if it was just a few days earlier than July 20th, it would be advantageous for you to do that, because we're going to get a flood of applications at the deadline. So you're just going to end up in a big flood of applications at the deadline if you apply by that time. So I recommend at least a day earlier if you can. If not, a few days earlier would make a big difference. Final round would be October 5th. But again, I highly recommend students apply early, because it is a rolling entry and it is a competitive entry program. Tuition fees is something I always like to touch on, just because I often get asked if this is like this $50,000 for Canadians and permanent residents are like just per year, or is it for the whole program? This is the whole program cost. So I know that those of you that have done research into top tier MBA programs in Canada will note that $50,000 is like roughly half of the going rate for a top tier program in Canada. And the reason for that is basically education is governed by the provinces, and there's a tuition revenue cap on what we can charge for domestic tuition. So take advantage of doing your degree here in beautiful British Columbia and get basically a big discount on a top tier education by doing the UBC PMBA program. This is a fantastic program and at a great price. Next steps, so visit our website if you have more questions. You can always reach out to me directly. There's my contact information there. Like I said, I will also be sending a follow-up email after this event if you want to contact me directly or you want to book a one-on-one advising appointment. Our next event is exactly 1 month from now, and this event is actually going to be geared towards students that were always curious about an MBA. They maybe come from one of those non-traditional sectors, like you don't come from finance, or you come from like one of the consulting background, and you're wondering if the the MBA is a good fit for you. So this is, a conversation with one of our PMBA alumna. Her name is Larissa Maxwell, and she's a director with the Salvation Army. And we're going to be talking, it's like a noon hour kind of discussion, very low key, about like MBA pathways for those particularly from like nonprofit and governance sectors, and just dispelling any myth that the MBA isn't right for people from, non-traditional sectors. So we definitely want you to apply if you're from a non-traditional sector, if you feel like the MBA is right for you. So feel free to join us on that July 22nd event. And more information about that will be sent in the follow-up email. So without further ado, I'm going to save the questions for later because we're going to have a little joint question period with Marja and Wendy after their presentation. But I'm going to leave the stage and hand it over to Marja and Wendy.
Right. So going to the slides. Good evening, everybody. We are really happy to see everybody joining our session. Those who are based in Vancouver, it's a beautiful summer day here. So thank you so much for sacrificing your evening today and joining us for this session. So if we can get going with our slides. So a little bit about my background. My name is Marja Harmer, and I am one of the career advisors working solely with the professional MBAs. And I also am one of the instructors with our residency program. So teaching with BA 501, BA 502, and BA 503 courses, since the career development is really closely embedded to the PMBA program. About my background, I'm originally from Finland, and before I made Vancouver my home, I had a chance to live in a couple of countries in Europe. I have cross-functional experiences from many areas before joining higher education, and I've been with the Sauder program for almost 22 years now. So the career advising experience, I have had a number of experiences across the board with Sauder MBAs, full-time, part-time PMBA, as well as our PhD students. And on the side, I also was advising professionals in Nokia and VANOC initiatives. On a personal note, I love off-grid living. I live on Passage Island at the root of a house sound, and I have 2 kids. My son is just entering to Queen's Engineering in this September, and my daughter is going to Sentinel in grade 11. So been experiencing parenting with teenagers, and when I'm not working or spending time with family, I love hiking or spending time paddleboarding. So that is a little bit of my background.
Hi, and so my name is Wendy Mann. I'm also one of the instructors for residency program and one of your career coaches with the PMBA. So a little bit about me personally. I'm married, have 3 grown children, and so I've seen them go through education and on to starting their careers. So that's been fun. They don't always listen to their mother, even though I'm a career coach, so it's kind of interesting. Unlike Mary, I'm from Canada, but I have this love for everything Europe. Got to visit there a few years ago, and I can't wait for the world to open up again and go back for another trip to Europe. But as I'm local, I love to be at the beach. That's sort of my happy place. Professionally, I started my career at American Express, where I ended up spending over 20 years developing my career in sales and business development into sales leadership roles. And then I moved on to working for a few brands you'll see here in the technology industry for about 6 years. During that time, I realized time for a big change in my career. So I moved on to becoming a licensed and professional life coach and emotional intelligence practitioner. And so I started my own coaching business back in 2014. And then about 4 or 5 years ago, I joined working with Marja and the PMBA program and coaching all of the PMBA students with her. And as well, I work for a small career coaching business called Bold Career Projects. That's a bit about me.
Excellent. So I want to start about this foggy, which is very unlike we are experiencing tonight. And with this fog comes uncertainty. We are basically drifting. We don't know where the opportunities are. We may not have a clear idea where we want to go. those high rises in the background, they can be opportunities, but they can also feel threatening. So our goal here is to create a clarity. So we are talking about navigating your career. We are talking about how to increase your visibility, as well as talking about how to be noticed in your own organization as tips for tonight.
So as we all would hope that this career path looks like a straight and narrow stepping stone down a yellow brick road, but it's not always that way. Our career progression often takes a left turn. It can have different stumbles along the way as well. And that's really okay. It's part of the learning journey, and it's an important part of it. It helps us get clearer on what we want. And so I'm going to use the whiteboard now and just walk you through what we call a career discovery exercise. Could also look like a career rediscovery exercise. Helps you get clear on what a fulfilling career would look like for you. So good points to do at different times in your career when things are shifting. You may feel sort of bored and plateaued in what you're doing, and you want to move on and make more progress. So an exercise to go through, we reflect on 4 categories, and I'm going to walk you through them quickly. And doing this exercise can even give you more maximized experience in doing it with a career coach. So the first thing we do is we take a look at what are our core values. Our core values are the fundamental things that we believe in that are most important to us. They really help guide us in our decision making. So they're things like integrity, teamwork, could be having a really great boss relationship at work, could also mean your remuneration at work. So you want to take time to think through what are the things that are most important to me that I value. And when we're feeling off, that's when usually it's a signal that our values really are misaligned. An example might be in the workplace, your boss might ask you to create a report and put the numbers in a certain way that reflects something better than it actually is. And it's like, okay, that pokes at me. It could also mean there's internal competition going on at work and it doesn't feel so collaborative. So when you notice these things happening, they are red flags. And not really feeling in sync is because you're not living by your values. So that's why it's important to create a list, maybe 10, and then prioritize the top values and then look at how well am I able to live these values in my organization right now. It's also a great opportunity to do this when you're looking for a job and think about what questions am I going to ask to really identify if I'm in alignment with my values. The second category we take a look at would be your skills and strengths. And I apologize for my handwriting. It's not so good. Should have been a doctor. So your skills, these are the things that you enjoy, that you're good at, and it's how you show up at work. It's also good to know what you don't enjoy and have a list of that as well. So skills, let's say we can call them the hard skills, quantitative things. It could be doing a financial analysis. It could be doing project management, for example. Some clues to figure out is, what am I great at and enjoy is, what are you doing when you really feel like you're in the zone? When you're feeling most productive and not procrastinating to do this task. So those are some indicators there. And then when we look at our strengths, some people would refer to them as the soft skills. I like to refer to them as the essential skills because they really are essential to your success. These are your leadership competencies. And this is also your emotional intelligence. And so an example of these would be your empathy skills, really tuning into others, building relationships, being able to make decisions. And the essential skills are really the key to your success. These are the #1 things that employers are looking for. And when it's lacking, it's likely going to sort of stunt your leadership growth opportunities. Okay, the next list, hope you can see through me here. What are the things that you are passionate about? When we think about what we're passionate about, this helps lead us to what industry would I ideally be working in? If it's not obvious, then you can ask yourself some questions to uncover these clues of what interests you and lights you up inside and outside of work. What do you spend time reading and talking about with your friends? Also, what did you love to do as a child that's still in there? And maybe what causes are you passionate about? So you want to look at what are the key themes here, and then consider, is this really just a hobby, or can I potentially find a career in this industry? Can I monetize it as well? So putting these three things together, you want to prioritize your lists in each of these categories and take a look at what kind of a job does it look like, in what industry, what organization and culture. It may also look like starting a business for yourself. So lots of changes that can happen. So if this isn't already what you're doing, then getting there is going to require you to make some changes, which can be really fun and exciting. It can also be quite scary. So I did say there was 4 categories. So as you reflect on how you feel about making a career change, you want to also consider, gosh, is there anything holding me back? Okay. And so this is where the internal dialogue can start. And it often looks like on one shoulder, we've got this really nice angel saying, yeah, you can do it, go for it. And on the other side, I'm not an artist either, by the way, there's a devil. And unfortunately, the devil seems to have a stronger voice. We call this the saboteur voice. And as human beings, we are hardwired to protect ourselves against things that we're fearful of, that maybe feel a bit risky. But this is actually the thing, this voice is what's holding you back. And this voice can sound like things like, I can't do this, I don't think I'm good enough. What if I fail? What will others think? Or a popular one I often hear is, I'm an imposter, I think I've got everybody fooled. I don't really know what I'm doing. I had a nickel for every time I heard that, and it's not true. You may also have a strong sense of loyalty to a boss or an employer, and making a change, you feel you might disappoint them. So you really need to challenge this saboteur voice and ask yourself, is this true? How likely is it to happen that I might fail? And if it happens, will I be able to handle it? So who are we going to listen to here? The one that says, yes, you can do it, or this other strong force? So it can be very challenging to overcome these things on your own. And that's why it's really important to work with a career coach or somebody that can help advise you and have a sounding board and really make sense of these things that are holding you back unnecessarily from realizing your dreams. And this is the kind of work that Marja and I do with our students that is really enjoyable. Love to see how people can break through these self-limiting beliefs and move on to amazing career progressions, helping them overcome the barriers and move these things out of the way. So we're here to help develop a plan for creating and achieving the ideal goals that people set for themselves. So this is just an example of the kind of work that we do.
So our goal is to do less drifting and more purposeful movements during our careers. Now, the second area that is also important is to understand what are the skill sets that organizations are after, what is important to predict somebody's leadership potential. So the 5 factors that I'm going to go quickly through here are your cognitive capabilities, your capacity, ability to learn new things, but also this time and age. Are you able to unlearn things or beliefs that are no longer serving you? The second thing would be your drive, how much energy you to bring to work every day. And sometimes the energy is directly related to if your values and your industry match is really making you excited to be at workplace. Third area is your learning agility and receptivity to feedback. So that is really talking about the fact that you are developing yourself. Your continuous learning is a big important theme. All of our students are doing a Strengths Finder assessment. I would say 75% of the students in their top 5 strengths is this learning. Being a lifelong learner is one of their key attributes. So if you are resonating with this particular attribute, that gives you an idea that the continuous development through a program like ours might be a good match. The second thing is listening others and learning from the feedback from others and being receptive for that. If no matter how good capabilities your ability to analyze numbers or be a good engineer, if you don't have the ability to take feedback from 360, from people who are working in front lines, people who are your peers or people who are your supervisors, that is definitely hurting your leadership potential. And then your motivation to progress. Many of our PMBA candidates who come to the program, just the fact that they are pursuing a program just because they are developing themselves, that's already a factor that makes them noticed. And then lastly, similar what Wendy mentioned, the emotional intelligence and resilience. So having that emotional capability, capacity to deal with the setbacks and be well-rounded what comes to those essential skills. So we can't really help you with Thrive, or we can't help you to motivation to progress as a program, but the fact that you are demonstrating your cognitive capacity, ability to get a feedback from your classmates who are coming from across the different industries, and again, the emotional intelligence training and assessments that we have here at Sauder, they are kind of the three pillars to help you to move forward with your career. Now, I'm going to quickly touch base on our PMBA 2021 class who crossed the stage, unfortunately virtually, in just a couple of weeks back, early June. And we had a class of 54 students within 44 students in this particular year that started their journey with us in 2019. And with this class, you can see the percentage of people who were promoted. So promotion within their organizations. 3 of those individuals would have actually double promotions during their journey in the program. Then we have career enhancers who felt that it was better to move to another organization. So that was quite a big percentage of individuals going and doing bigger scope, better role in a different organization than their original organization when they began the program. It was a time of COVID, so we had slightly less people doing career change. So that is about 9% of the class. And then we had 3 individuals who went and started their own businesses. These stats are actually on end of April, so we actually only have now 5 students who have not had change. Some of those individuals are experiencing and taking maternity leave. Some of those individuals are already at the top of their organization, and the career shift wasn't really the reason why they came to Sauder. But as of yesterday, I didn't have a chance to change the slide, but we are 91% of the graduating class of 2021 of students have had a career shift. So we never think you as stick figures. We know everybody by first name, and we do have a very close advising relationship, coaching relationship with the class. So just wanted to introduce you to that particular class for you. And for the class which is graduating next year this time, already 54% of them have experienced some kind of career change in those categories of career change, different sector, or different function, career enhancement, or promotion within their organizations. And I think that's a really good result given that the COVID has changed the hiring landscape during these 18 months that we've experienced this. So moving on to how to build your visibility outside of your organization. So we have here about 10 different factors that are showing you the ways how you can increase your visibility. But a little bit of tips for 2 of them. So with the professional associations, it's really important that you are never only a member. Try to become a leader, particularly if you are in the field and function that you are not looking for a big shift. Creating that professional reputation and becoming a leader within your industry through these associations is quite important. Secondly, you can engage yourself in activities that bring best practices from that industry for yourself. And thirdly, become a people connector. People connect different ways if they are introverted or extroverted, but you can always bring different people together through these associations who necessarily wouldn't have had a benefit of knowing each other until you introduce them. So it's creating a lot of goodwill. The second area here is mentoring relationships. So with the mentoring relationships, our tip is to have 3 different kinds of mentors. Somebody who's 2 years older, somebody 2 years older or ahead in their careers, somebody who's 5 years ahead, and then somebody who is 10 years plus. So really giving you kind of a big picture, the VP or C-suite level of view to your career. And ideally, one of these mentors would be outside of your current organization to give you an unbiased view. The other thing too, if it is you become a better mentee if you mentor others. So it is a two-way street. So regardless of where you are in your career, become active with your alma mater, become a mentor in your university if you can, because that teaches you a lot about the mentorship. So with these factors, career pathing and your visibility within the organization, these leadership factors, hopefully that gives you an idea of the different things that you can do to move yourself forward, regardless of if you come to this program.
So to wrap up here, our goal is really to help you create clarity and focus on your goals based on your skill set, your personality, and what is right for you to eliminate any drifting. Develop your leadership and emotional intelligence to set the course. Increase your professional visibility both online and through professional organizations and mentors, as Mari just mentioned. Increase your understanding of what the market is looking for. This will give you a broad view of opportunities and the reality around you. So we wish you all the best of luck in your exploration journey and hope to see you amongst the incoming PMBA class in January of 2022. So thank you very much for your time and attention. And we'll move on to questions now with Vivian, anything related to admission process, and Mari and I, anything with coaching progression related. Thank you.
Great. So if anybody has any questions for Wendy or Marja, firstly, thank you so much to Wendy and Marja for those insights and for sharing, about yourselves and the coaching relationship and, how and your tips on how to advance your career. And then also for making the time tonight to have this discussion. So to the audience members, if you have any questions for Wendy or Marja, please feel free to put them in the chat or the Q&A, and we'd be more than happy to direct those questions to Wendy and Marja. As we're waiting for people to input there's some questions right here. So this question is from Jake. Do you think there are times when someone should not accept a promotion, say because you don't feel prepared?
Do you want to take that?
Do you think there are times? Well, I think, yeah, this turns into a coaching conversation. I think you have to look at the driving factors behind going for this promotion. The categories we just went through. Does this align with your career goals? Does this align with your values? And so, yeah, and if you're not feeling like, because you don't feel prepared, if you don't feel like you're being set up for success, that's one thing. It's another thing if you're just letting fear get in the way. So that would be something to work through with a coach is, am I just scared of failure? That kind of thing. So we really have to get a bit more information to get that out of you.
Yeah, I would also add there that if you are looking to shift your career to a specific sector, typically you have in that role, like if you take in a promotion and then you leave very quickly. So usually about 12 months in that new role is expected to show that you are able to handle the new level of responsibility. If you leave very quickly after your promotion, that may send a signal that there might be something underlying. So that preparedness of if you feel that you are not able to succeed within that 12-month timeline, or if your relationship to the person who is your closest supervisor and who's a decision maker, if you are anticipating issues there, those could be another 2 areas that might lead to direction of not taking a promotion.
I see there's a question here about the saboteur. What do you feel is the biggest blind spot when we see students coming in? I would say one of them is everybody looks around thinking everybody else has it figured out more than them. You know, it's
absolutely.
like, oh gosh, see, well, they've got that and they've got that, and it's a lot of comparison. And so we're all on our individual journey. And so I think comparison doesn't add any value. It's really about what's important for you, what's going on in your life. We all have different DNA. We all have different journeys. So I think that would be a big one. Do you have any other one? Or?
Yeah, I would say the second, I think that's absolutely true. People, particularly in the beginning of the program, when they don't know how collaborative the classroom environment is, that first residency, the day 3, there's still people are really, oh my God, everybody else is smarter in the room kind of a thing. But I think the other one is that we do have a lot of type A individuals. And when you are super vigilant, like if you are a super achiever, sometimes people are so busy just achieving that they don't stop and reflect, is this the right place to go towards to? So keeping themselves so busy, keeping themselves kind of performing doesn't necessarily serve them well in the super long-term 10-year time frame. So taking back, it's like when you're doing sports, when you are throwing a ball, you have to go backwards to pivot forward faster. So that time to reflect, I think that's super important. And I think time to reflect before you pursue a program like this. So if you do a similar kind of programs like CPA or something similar, do the reflection ahead of time. It also helps with the admission process to know where you want to go.
There's a question about internships, which Kevin has answered. Generally, we don't have internships, but Marja, I think there have been a few students in the PMBA program that have done internships in the past. Am I correct?
Yeah, so as a part of the program, you are not getting any academic credits by taking an internship, but we definitely are here to support you. So let's say you are middle of the career change and we are mapping your career path, and to get from point A to point B, they're sometimes taking a short-term contract opportunities in the area that connects the dots better. That definitely has happened. I would say any given year, we would have 1 or 2 students in every cohort who are taking these opportunities. And many of our students also are super active with the club. So for example, Sauder Management Consulting Club, they do pro bono consulting engagements. And with that can be that missing piece if you are very embedded to one area and you want to shift to a very different area.
We have a general question from Karen about what type of students would you feel do best in this program?
That's a great question. I think students that are open and vulnerable, that they really, over time, sometimes it takes a little bit of time, is they open themselves up to the learning, just to learning more about themselves, what makes them tick, what are the things that hold them back. And when they can free those things up, like the path forward is amazing. That's what I would say.
That's excellent advice.
Yeah, that curiosity and continuous learning, I think that's really important trait. Like some people, like I will make, and we don't have them often, but sometimes you have individuals, like I just want to do an MBA for 3 letters. In my mind, it should be never about those 3 letters. It is how do you want to apply yourself and how do you want to create a path that makes you excited to go to work every day. And then the learning, the expanding your skill set from one area to the other. So like I know in today's industry, Alumni Panel, we have a number of people who have done that career shift and seeing kind of the enjoyment when they are going to a new field that they really enjoy. That's amazing.
Great. And then we have a question here from William. Can you speak to how the BCC has had to adapt and pivot due to COVID?
Yes, a lot.
This is what you're seeing here.
So we really miss being in class. And when the program is like September, our plan is to be back in the classroom. But doing events virtually, it's never the same experience. Sometimes it can be a better experience because now you have a Zoom conversation with somebody who you otherwise would not. But we do all of our career advising through Zoom. We have done all of our workshops through Zoom. We have done all of the residencies through Zoom. So we have that experience. And recruiters. So that can be plus and minus. So in the positive side, we had way more companies coming outside of the Greater Metro Vancouver area to do the recruiting, because they didn't have to haul their top 5 people who do the campus recruiting back to campus, and everybody was able to do the sessions from their homes. Having alumni running sessions for us. So Zach, for example, did a fabulous session for us from California on Amazon and how to kind of tackle Amazon interviews. So we could have not done that in the face-to-face settings when geographic issues are here. We are still running all of our mentor program, but it is virtual. So we have been able to add a lot of programming that wasn't possible before, because we are able to tap on our alumni who's not physically based in Vancouver. Mm-hmm. But again, we do miss that one-on-one with our students in the same room. So,
okay, thanks, Marja. We have a few questions here just regarding from Wayne. Are there restrictions, regulations with regards to COVID vaccinations for in-person classes in January 2022? I think we're hoping to run classes in person, but in terms of regulations with vaccinations, I'm not sure if that's been defined yet. Wendy and Marja, if you would know any better, but I think that there's not been any language with regards to mandatory vaccinations.
No, I haven't heard anything like that either. I know we have speedy testing on campus, so we are wrapping that one up. We are expected to be on campus in person in September, so that's all we have heard so far. But we pivoted to online in over one weekend, so our teams in the RHL have been working so hard to create different scenarios on how does the return on campus start. And again, we do have a full-time MBA class starting in September before your class. So that's going to be a great testing ground for the PMBA starting in January.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it definitely does look like it's possible for in-person start in January, since we're starting all the fall programs, or we're anticipating a fall program start. So that would be very exciting. So we're going to wait for a few more questions to come in, but I wanted to talk to you about something, Wendy and Marja, that you brought up during your presentation, is kind of learning and unlearning different mentalities. And I was wondering if you can tell us a little bit more, like in detail, about what that can mean, or what the process looks like for people to kind of unlearn ways of thinking.
My experience, sometimes people who go very specific training for their undergraduate, and if the discipline, let's say it's in engineering, so the engineering teaching is very different from business teaching. So sometimes that unlearning process and the struggle, let's say, for leadership or OBHR courses, where the answers and the concepts are more, they are not numbers based, it's more reflections. So sometimes that unlearning process has been really rewarding, but it takes a little bit of time to kind of get used to that. And I think having that full view, how you are learning new things from one perspective, and seeing maybe how are the decision makers in the top level seeing things, that is kind of closing that gap. And I'm sure alumni who has engineering background, like I can see Aaron right there, it's kind of like when you are moving it from individual contributor to people manager to senior manager roles, how having both of these academic disciplines is really, really useful.
Mm-hmm. And I also know that there's this process that I'm sure you and Wendy, you see all the time, where like for me, it's very amazing to see like people come in with a certain idea of where their career is going to grow. And then it just like baffles me when I see them at the end of the process. So that process where people can actually have to expand their knowledge of what they can achieve for themselves. So I don't know if you have anything to add for that, but that's always something that I'm always amazed to see when students do beyond what they initially expected.
Well, I can comment, actually, he just posted it on LinkedIn, I think yesterday, engineer turned coach. Like, really, I don't did I influence him that much with how much I love my job? He's an engineer in, really technical work. And through this transition, when we first met, he's like, what is this coaching stuff? And we now chuckle about that from a few years ago when we first started working together. And it's like, again, when you let your guard down and think about really what's important to you, who you are, the self-discovery that happens over the course of the program is amazing. Yeah. And now he has become, he's gone through halfway through a coaching program, and he's going to use that as he moves into quite a senior leadership role, going from an individual contributor to leading a team of about 15 or 20 people. So this is going to serve him really well. So that was quite fun to see.
That's amazing. I think I saw that that LinkedIn update as well. So that's really exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a few more questions coming up in the chat here. This one is from Jessica, and she's asking, what are some of the companies / organizations that UBC has strong relationships with? And does the program facilitate introductions / connections?
Absolutely. So the connection piece is big. Our alumni network it's huge. So again, during the one-on-one sessions, we would be going through your interests, and then we would be looking for alumni working in this organization so that you can have more authentic chat about the people's experiences. Of course, we have numerous companies coming on campus. So from anywhere from a local players from Best Buy, BC Hydro, TELUS, all the consulting companies, Big banks. Four, big banks. So they come on campus, but we see that the best work is done when you do have that authentic connection with somebody else who have gone through the program. So that is part of our process, how people find opportunities.
Great. And then we have a few minutes before we start the alumni panel. So one question I'd like to pose to you, because I get this quite often in my advising sessions, are people that are kind of approaching this program because they have an interest in like an industry shift. So maybe they're working in a totally different sector, but they're trying to transition to the booming tech sector. That's a very common one that I hear, is like, because everyone's kind of interested in tech. What would be your advice to people kind of considering a mid-career shift into totally different sectors?
Yeah, so taking baby steps and really working with an advisor, so that is super important. But we do have individuals who have maybe a very technical background who want to go more in product management or product marketing. So that is a quite typical shift that we see. Understanding that product management, program management, customer loyalty, all of those areas are kind of that's a popular way to, let's say, shift from one industry to the other. So I'm currently working with an individual who's actually, his background is he's dietitian. So moving from there to product management. So the baby step is definitely business analysis within his own organization to kind of learning more about Agile, learning about the differences between Agile and Waterfall. He's taking Scrum course on the side, as well as going to smaller tech companies that are specializing in e-health. So that's kind of his journey looking like. And again, it's so interesting. He's been only in the program for barely 6 months now, but having interviews and having conversations and having that shift happening, it's amazing.
Also, I would say when you're making quite a significant shift, having a strong network is really important, because you might not look like the ideal fit for this role. If you can have someone vouch for you and get that introduction, it can also really help open the doors for you.
Right. Thanks so much for that, Wendy and Marja. So I noticed that our alumni panel has arrived and we're at the end of our question period. So thank you so much for joining us and for giving your insights today. And now I'd like to invite our alumni panel to please turn on your video feeds and unmute yourselves, and we're going to start our alumni panel. Thank you so much, Wendy and Marja.
Thank you.
Great. Just make sure everyone is in proper view here. All right, I think everyone's here. Zach, if you're able to, feel free to put yourself on video as well. If not, we're happy to just continue on voice only if you're not able to get on video. So thank you to all of you for joining us today, for making the time to kind of share your journeys for us. It's so inspirational to hear your stories. I'd like to actually give a big congrats to Prabh. I just noticed yesterday you had posted that you just got a promotion to senior manager. So big congrats to you on that. It's always such a pleasure to see all these changes on LinkedIn and see the good work of the Business Career Center on the different types of career paths that you've had. So start the evening off just by congrats to one of our alumni that has just got the promotion. As I'd like to just start off by asking all of you to introduce yourselves and maybe start off with just telling us, your name and your year of graduation, and also what your undergraduate degree was, because that's always an interesting one for people. So just short introduction, who you are, where you're working, year of your graduation, and undergraduate degree. Maybe Aaron, you can start. You're conveniently unmuted.
Sure. Hey, thanks for having me. Glad to be here. My name's Aaron Kaiway. I'm a leader and a senior manager at Intel Corporation. Been there for about 10 years now, and I lead and manage an international team of about 100 engineers in our SSD engineering team. I graduated from the part-time MBA program in 2015, and I have an undergraduate in electronics engineering from SFU.
Right.
So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Pleasure to have you, Aaron. Great to see you. Deanna, you're also conveniently unmuted.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Vivian. It's very nice to be here. I originally trained as a nurse at UBC and worked in hospital administration. I graduated from my MBA with Aaron. We're in the same class in 2015. And recently, about 2 years ago, moved to Calgary from BC. And just a couple of months ago, I started a work with Alberta Health Services. And I'm the department manager for family medicine here, which is a fairly big department. And I have 10 managers under me and about 150 staff underneath them or so. I'm still trying to figure it out, but very nice to be here. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, Deanna, and congratulations on your new move to Calgary.
Thank you.
Prabh, why don't you go next?
Of course. First of all, thank you so much for the nice compliment at the beginning. Hey team, I'm Prabh, based out of Vancouver. Graduated in 2014. So Deanna and Aaron all stole my homework to pass. I've been with PwC for about 6 years. I'm currently a senior manager there in the consulting practice and typically work with large-scale transformations in the government and public sector space. Prior to that, I was software engineering. I did software engineering and was in typically very technical roles. And post-MBA, I transitioned over to a little bit more on the business side. And now I play that intersection between technology and business and work in a solution architect role. Thanks.
And Prabh, I don't know, did you mention your undergraduate major?
Software engineering.
Software engineering. Okay.
Yep.
Great. Thanks, Prabh. Zach, why don't you go next?
Did you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Fantastic. I was having technical difficulties earlier. Nice to meet everyone. My name is Zach. I am a pharmacist. I graduated from UBC in a bachelor's of pharmacy. I did pharmacy for about 10 years before I came back and did my part-time MBA with UBC. I did that and graduated in 2017 and have since transitioned stateside with Amazon, and I'm now a site leader with Amazon. I run a facility of about 1,500 associates in Stockton, California, doing upwards of 500,000 packages a day. It's the second day of Prime, so thank you everybody for your orders. Looking forward to speaking to all of you.
Oh my gosh, Zach, I can't believe you joined us during Prime. Thank you so much for being here. That's like the MBA work ethic right there. Joyce, finally Joyce, please.
Hi, everyone. Great to see some familiar alumni faces. And Zach, you work at Amazon and you were having technical difficulties. I just had to point that one out. Thanks for inviting me. Great to speak with, to chat with all of you. My undergrad was in psychology. I graduated from the part-time MBA at 2016. I spent about a decade in management consulting, made it to the partner level, and then also started my own consulting firm. Actually currently pivoted to the public sector, working as the director of strategy and analytics at CapU. At a local university here, and also enjoying a lot of the public sector pace, which allows me to volunteer, which has been some exciting development in the past 12 months.
Wonderful. Thank you all for your introductions. And I asked you guys for your undergraduate majors, so just so people can see where all of you came from, all these different diverse backgrounds, and of course you ended up in different industries as well. But just to highlight to people that the MBA is like for people from all different backgrounds, and that you can find success in different fields or even diverse fields, like Zach transitioning from the healthcare sector to like now living in Silicon Valley, working for Amazon. So those are really compelling stories, and I look forward to learning more about them. I'd just like to remind the participants of this event to feel free, if you have questions for any of our panelists or for all of our panels, to just enter your questions either in the Q&A or in the chat, and we will direct your questions to our panelists. So I'll start you off with some questions while we wait for our participants to think of some questions. Can you each tell me how the MBA program has impacted your career development? Deanna, you want to start? You've left yourself unmuted, so you're vulnerable.
I'm gonna mute myself next time. Yeah, I think maybe Marja like kind of touched on this a little bit earlier in the chat, is and maybe Zach had a similar experience, but nursing is very, should I say, like straightforward, right? The career path is very linear. And when I worked in administration and I said I'm a nurse, people are like, oh, what hospital do you work? I'm like, well, I don't work in a hospital. So I took the MBA on purpose because I really wanted to be able to branch out more easily outside of that linear pathway and be more transferable across different industries. And that just really appeals to me. It was scary, to be honest, but I feel that it was the right decision for me, and especially exposing me to different industries, working with people. There's lots of group projects in the program, and just working in a group with people who have a finance background or accounting background or engineering background, bringing in those skill sets was really important in kind of molding my world, my perspective in my day-to-day conversations now. And I think it also enabled me, I spoke that I kind of moved to Calgary. Moving to Calgary let me have like a fresh start where I had to choose, do I want to go into, funny enough, like the tech consulting, the government consulting industry, or do I want to stay in healthcare? I had a little bit of a mental breakdown and I wish I had talked to Marja, but I chose to stay in healthcare for a little bit longer. But it would have been very easy, to be honest, having an MBA to branch out into a different field.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for sharing that, Deanna. And can you tell us a little bit about like that move to Calgary? Like, how did the MBA kind of help you with that transition to a new market?
Yeah, it's well, moving, I didn't really know. I didn't have any people. My husband is from here, but having my whole network provincially in BC was really hard to drop the network. And the other benefit of the MBA that I'm sure we'll cover is that network that you build. So that was really scary for me. So my first thought was, where's my network in Calgary? And the first thing that I reached out to was the Sauder Calgary network. And now I'm actually one of the UBC ambassadors for Calgary. And it was really exciting until COVID happened and we can't really meet other people. But that really helped. Having the MBA helped with the transition. And also having the ability to reach back to my network with our MBA class and chat and be inspired and motivated. I think that really also helped as I started landing on my feet here.
Amazing. Thanks so much for sharing, Deanna. Zach.
So I think the question was how it impacted my career trajectory. So completely changed it. I would have never believed coming from a manager of pharmacies to jumping to Amazon in their operations leadership program. I think a lot of the things I'll tap on, and Marja had mentioned this in a bit of the talk, is you don't need your act together to jump into this. There's a lot of things that you might think are the perfect conditions to be an MBA, and there's just no such thing. So let me highlight 3 things about myself, and I'll be vulnerable on this call. 1, I joined the MBA not knowing why. I came to a candy store to open every cupboard available and taste every candy I could taste. Number 2, I'm an introvert. I'm an INFJ, and I would never have dreamed to lead a site this large as an introvert, and how exhausting I thought that was and how energizing it turned out to be. And then number 3 is I actually did it for love. I know some of you might know this, but I actually came to the MBA because I met my wife, my current wife, who was from California, and I needed to find a way to get to California. And actually it was this exact event in 2014, I believe, that made me join UBC, the UBC MBA. I met Marja and I said, Marja, I need to get to America. And she said, Zach, we can do that for you. Here's a plan. And that was just so inspiring that somebody at an MBA career event was supporting me to get closer to the love of my life. So those are some interesting things about how it just completely transformed my life, as well as things that you might think it's not for me, but it totally can be.
That's such a great story, Zach. I remember hearing it for the first time. What a fantastic combination. And for Marja to see that in you right away. Obviously, you're very smart, but when you're like a man in love, anything obviously is possible. What a great story. Thank you so much for sharing that, Zach. Who wants to go next? Maybe I'll pick on Prabh, just because he's really putting on the whole consulting, lavish lifestyle with starting the happy hour already.
I was hoping for Deanna to join me, but she bailed and picked up water instead. So I'm so disappointed. Oh, there you go. Thanks, Joyce.
Oh, there we go. A few drinks there.
For me, since I was transitioning from such a tech-heavy role, for me, I was working at startups before I came to the MBA program, and one of the parent companies of the startups I was at was a consulting company, and that piqued my interest into consulting. But it was a little hard to break into the consulting side of things overall, just because of the number of years of experience I had at that time, but also because I felt that I did not have certain things in my toolkit, simply because of the way my brain used to work at that time, which was very 0 and 1 focused. I started coding when I was 10. So for the longest time in my career, I just had everything built in my brain and wired everything logically. So coming to the MBA program, I was going in with the approach that it's going to help me fill my toolkit with diverse perspectives, multiple ways of solving a problem, and just being able to articulate how things needed to, what we were trying to solve and how we were going to solve it. Bringing all those things together, the MBA program really helped me from that perspective, and especially the part-time plan too, because you are sitting in a class with people who have way more experience than you, and you are sitting there and working with them day in and day out, and you start inculcating their habits, their good habits, into your daily life, which you can practice when you go back to work the following week. And that really helped me bring everything together. And so the MBA definitely was a big transition for me. While I stayed in technology, I've moved over from a very task-based focus into a much more strategic role, where I joined a smaller consulting firm right after MBA and then transitioned over to PwC. And it's been a fantastic journey.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Prabh. What a wonderful journey, and congrats so much on your successes so far. Joyce, why don't you tell us a little bit more about how the MBA impacted your journey?
Sure. I think the best way to explain it is that the MBA gives you such a generalist toolkit, right, that you can take and apply to really every organization or any sector. And I was just thinking back, since my graduation, I've been in at least 4 very different sectors. Venture capital, I spent a year and a half as an associate for venture capital, so as pretty private sector as you can go. Strategy consulting, so very high level. public sector in terms of kind of boots on the ground, building an analytics team, and then also into the charity work in terms of the nonprofit sector, right? And I think the only way I could have had that confidence is literally what I've learned in the MBA, because you can have everything from the accounting world to the finance world to HR, and you don't need to be a specialist and an expert in it, but you have the level of confidence to ask the right questions, to then diagnose what the problem is and still contribute value. So I definitely contribute, kind of where my career trajectory and a little bit of kind of just my curiosity in the very different sectors that I've been kind of very blessed to be able to work and play in, really.
Yeah, such a diverse career profile for you, from working with various companies to starting your own. So it's definitely been a journey of many different experiences for you.
Absolutely.
And Erin, finally, tell us a little bit about how the MBA journey has impacted your career transformation.
Sure. Want to riff a little bit off of Joyce in that it's definitely given, I think two things would be adaptability and pace. In Intel as a corporate technology manager and a corporate leader really requires you to have a complete package of skill sets, but the problem is at the start of the day you don't know what portion of that skill set you're going to be using, and so you could be pulled into, say, something deeply technical and tactical on the ground, like we have a task force running, we have to make a decision, there's a schedule and a ship date for 1 million or 10 million units, all the way up to the next half hour. And the next hour, you're talking about strategic direction for what features do we want to put in over a 2 or 3 year time period. And how do we go out and affect that? All the way back down to, say, in the next half hour, an hour, to personnel managing and being present for your people, being empathetic. And so really, I think the MBA has hugely affected my career trajectory in giving me that generalist toolkit, helping me be exposed to a wide variety of different views from all of my excellent peers, and having an opportunity to practice and listen and then use those tools at pace in a very safe environment. And so that all of those things put together, I think, have had a huge impact on being able to move from when I started the MBA was really at a team lead level, and have since transitioned internally in the company through at least 3 different successively growing problem sets in a variety of different conditions: growth, uncertainty, shrinkage, and that tool set that the MBA program has given me has been awesome to date.
That's amazing. Thanks so much for sharing, Erin. Great. So we do have some questions that have trickled in the Q&A. So William's asking, did any of the panelists take advantage of any of the study abroad components of the program? If so, would love to hear any of your takeaways or learning from the experience. And if you haven't done study abroad, if you had any exposure to the global network and it impacted you, those would really be some great insights to share as well.
Yeah, I can jump in. I did both GNAM and GIE. And it's the first thing I tell any prospective MBA is do it. Why not? It's one of the most fun parts of the experience. So I did GNAM, the Global Network of Advanced Management at Yale University in the behavioral economics stream, one of the first years that they launched, I think. And it was phenomenal, meeting students that were studying and on the same journey as I from around the world, being able to be exposed to really top tier faculty, and then also being able to do tours of companies in New York City, right? So I think it's such a blessing to have that as part of the UBC Sauder program, and be able to leverage that opportunity. I think that was really fun. And then the GIE global immersion that I did was in London. So I was actually working with the finance sector there and understanding how does investment work in infrastructure debt funds, something I never thought I would, especially as a psychology student, ever understand. So it was fantastic to have some hands-on experience and working very closely with a real client there, right, in building out that portfolio. So yeah, if you get a chance, absolutely do it.
Yeah. Yes, Erin.
So I would rank my GIE experience is probably in the top 3 experiences of the part-time MBA program. And so I am a wholehearted fan or cheerleader of taking advantage of the travel programs. For my GIE experience, I happened to go to Shanghai, and we did our immersion program focused on the real estate industry there. And the differences in business culture, as well as the local geopolitical, regulatory, financial environments are definitely a paradigm shift away from what we see here in Vancouver. And so being able to experience that in situ and get that perspective from local professors, from local colleagues, I think really opened my eyes and also was really refreshing. I mean, it was definitely, you had to turn off your North American portion of your brain, be open and sensing what was going on, and then reflecting it back and try to adapt as quickly as possible. So to me, it was an awesome experience, ranked in the top 3 of everything I did in the MBA.
That's amazing, Aaron. What an insight into like a whole different world, and like so much bigger than like what you're used to at home, and just being able to expand that way and learn. Thanks for sharing that. Anybody else have any international experiences? Deanna?
I always like sharing mine because, like Aaron, my international experience were my favorite part of the program, or biggest, I don't know, just really incredible. I think it's really important for your international experience to go after them, like look at what's available, really do your research and pursue it. Instead of waiting to say like, oh, here's what's coming up. There's so many pockets of partnerships that UBC has globally. So that's really important, just to do your homework and have them listed. They each have different timelines, different semesters, that like different blocks that are available. So really be on top of that if that's something that's important to you. I did 3 international experiences. The first one was I did it was a health innovation course through Columbia University in New York. So we spent a week in New York City understanding the American healthcare system, which was really interesting, through Columbia University. The second was my GIE program, which was also similar to Aaron. Mine was in India, and we worked with tech companies. We worked with Tech Mahindra and Infosys. And we did consulting projects for them, and that was just amazing. And that was really neat, just understanding cultural differences of how different teams work, and how we present and how we appeal to an audience. And then my third experience was, and there was a question on the chat around kind of extracurricular, I also joined the Sauder sailing club. And one of the highlights was joining the Rolex MBA regatta in Italy, and partying in black tie suits for 3 days straight. It was amazing. It was one of the highlights, and I would highly encourage. If you don't know how to sail, I didn't know either, but it's very easy. And the bonus for the India GIE is that I also met my husband at the airport in Mumbai. We had never met in the program. We're both from, well, he's from Calgary, but finally we met on our way to Bangalore. So never know when these little surprises will come to you.
Yeah,
another story related to love. I love it.
Yeah. Is that part of the marketing materials? It's like, your Sauder MBA, find love.
Maybe we should make it part of the marketing materials. Like, so many people find love here. And you're highly qualified, I have to say. I've seen all your resumes, so it's definitely good. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Deanna. Does anyone else have anything to share with international, or we can move on to another question? Okay, well, why don't we move on to Courtney's question, because it had to do with, student-run groups. So Deanna talked about some of the student-run groups that she was involved with. Does anybody else, have any, did you get involved with any of the student-run groups? If so, which ones did you join and why? Okay, maybe Deanna was the only kind of social butterfly. I mean, we could, Aaron, did you want to say something?
I can jump in.
Yeah.
Go for it.
All right, Aaron, thank you. One of the ones that I jumped into was actually one that Marja had mentioned earlier, the Strategic Consulting Management Program. Not a social one, definitely a studying one. was one of the, I see a lot of people nodding, yes. That was the program that was run by graduates of both BCom as well as MBA programs at UBC that went on to join strategy consulting. It is a rigorous summer program, especially for part-time, because you're going to take that on top of your normal courses, in which not only are you going to go under rigorous training from not only strategy consultant, but also the interview program and how to do not only behavioral interviews, but also the case-based interviews that are really showcased in some of the most difficult interviews to get into McKinsey, Bain, BCG, and the rest. I know many of us have similar experiences. But I really want to mention that that was one of the major skills that I took away from my MBA, was a rigorous summer, over 200 practice interviews that really helped me after the program.
Great, thanks so much, Zach. Yeah, the strategy consulting manager program is definitely, it's like a training program, basically. If you can pass it, you're guaranteed first round interviews with all the consulting firms, but it does give you a glimpse into what that consulting life would look like. So it is not for the faint-hearted. There's also a high barrier to entry, so at least a 700 or higher GMAT to get in. But it does give you lots of opportunities, and of course, a very rigorous experience. It's not a fun drinking club at all. It's contrary to what Prabh is showing about consulting right now. It's not like that. This is like a lot of hard work. So if you are interested in the consulting sector, it is one of the best ways to get in, is through that training program. Thanks for sharing your experience, Zach. Aaron, did you want to say something about student-run club or social activities?
I think we can leave. Zach provided an awesome answer, so I think we can leave it at that.
Okay, great. Well, there was a related question with regards to the international experiences that came up. So I was just going to loop back to that quickly. For those of you that did go international, how did you balance the international experiences while you were working full-time jobs? That was it. That's a very good question.
You get a lot of advance notice for a lot of the international experience. So we all have different calendar periods of our year where things are especially busy. So the client wants something, or you're trying to ship product, or it's end of year. I think the beauty of, especially for GNAM, is that there's multiple periods. So, and going through the application process, you do know and have the opportunity to sign up and work with your company or with your manager to make sure that you can make space. While you're doing it, it's a fairly focused experience. So I think that's euphemistic.
The smile says a lot. Like Aaron wasn't just like having a great time in Shanghai. He was definitely just learning a lot of stuff.
I will cage you. There were a couple of nights of drinking, but you know, there was also probably about 10 days of really hard work. So,
awesome.
So yeah, you do have to set aside time, but you do get a lot of advance notice that this thing is coming.
Mm-hmm. You use a lot of your vacation up, but I think what Aaron, like what you touched on, is that relationship with your manager or your boss. And if you're thinking about starting the program, it's really important just to have a conversation, and like you'd be surprised how much flexibility there ends up being, and sometimes not, right? Like sometimes there's deadlines and you have deadlines at work and deadlines at school, and you just, something drops. So you always got to drop a ball. But having a relationship with your boss and trying to work out something there, I think that's also really worth exploring.
Okay. Thanks for your insights on those. And then a question came in, what the workload was like while you were completing the program. And I guess maybe related to that is, I mean, like the questions from the same person, from Karen, like how heavy was the workload when you were beginning the program, and how to make time to begin the program after not studying for many years. So I guess it could be kind of a related question, or you guys can answer in different streams, but just a little bit about the workload and how to get restarted in the academic world, like after not studying for so long.
I can go first. So like most people may testify, and I think most people will, that it's definitely hard to get back into the groove of hitting the books regularly as you get into the program. The one thing that was extremely helpful was the prep courses before the actual start of the MBA. I think they were phenomenal in a way of, we had some time where we were doing some preparatory courses for the MBA program around the accounting side and the financial side. And that really helped it helps you start thinking about what workload is coming down your way, and you can start thinking about it from that perspective. So you'll start putting time aside to do the pre-reading, you'll start putting time aside to attend the work, and then connect with your peers to do the homework, etc. So I think that was a really good start to getting into the full groove of the MBA. Once we did get in the MBA, coming from a technical background, somebody who had never studied accounting, that was definitely my kryptonite at the beginning. Over time, as with practice and definitely a lot of peer support, that became easier, and I could actually work through it fairly easily. But it has its learning curves. For others, some of the other courses were harder, and I could help them understand them in an easier fashion and by giving examples to them. So the combination of that is definitely helpful. So you rely on your peers a lot, and you help out your peers in return. The workload overall was difficult, but overall you start building up capacity. So while it might start off at a very steep learning curve, from there on it eases out quite significantly as well. So by the time you're at the end of the program, the workload is not going to feel that hard. You would have built up capacity. Your multitasking capability is going to be through the roof, and you will be able to manage deadlines fairly easily. I think that's what helped me quite a bit too.
It's amazing. And the capacity is a real thing. I'm amazed that, it seems like once people graduate from this program, you have all this free time. People are learning different languages, learning new sports. There's just capacity to do so much more. So that's something I often talk to prospective students about, is they think they can't do it at the beginning, but after going through this, your capacity to do things just widens. And it's another positive benefit of the program, is learning how to increase what you think you can actually do. Mm-hmm. So that's a great one, Prabh. Anybody else want to talk about, studying again after being out of it for a while, and how to handle the workload? Zach?
Yeah, I think what I would have done before coming back in would be to spend as much time with my loved ones and set expectations. There's plenty of time during the PMBA to make sure that you put in the hard work. Make sure you spend the time with your loved ones, set expectations that this is a journey, a transformational one, that you're going to have to put in as much as you want to get out. On the other side of that as well, I think there's a certain amount of making sure you know what you want out of this. The MBA is going to offer so many different opportunities that there's just not enough time in those 28 months or however long it is now to do every single one of them. If you have a strategy on what you want to dive into to get what you want out of this program, and like I said, I didn't know when I started, but the sooner you do, you can allocate your resources effectively to get the most you want out of this program. And I just want to also tap on, if you haven't done a master's before, this is a very different learning environment than sitting in a didactic environment, a technical one like Prabh or myself, for me in pharmacy, where I was just rote memorizing things. This is a very different learning opportunity and learning environment, where you're really simulating what it's like to be a top performer in business. Are you going to be able to manage your personal life, manage your work aside, and also manage the side projects you have to make sure that you're putting that up forward? It is a lot, but I want to make sure that the more focused you are with that and you set expectations, the more you're going to be able to get out of it.
Aaron?
Maybe I can add a few words. By virtue of you all being here tonight, I think that really sort of demonstrates the interest in furthering your career and maybe just even self improvement, and really that is probably 70 or 80% of the battle. Right, getting the motivation and then having the self starting to investigate this and wanting to do this. Yes, it's going to be hard work, but you have it in you. It's like like was alluded to earlier, you do not realize how much capacity you have inside of you. And really in the first month or 6 weeks of the program, that gets ramped up and you just get used to being able to provide that capacity and balance your day. Like Zach mentioned, the conversations, your loved ones and your friends, I think are form an important support network. I know, at least for me, my wife and my family definitely did, and I see a lot of nods all around. So that conversation is there, but it's not to say that you're not going to be able to maintain your most important relationships throughout your MBA. You're going to have time to be able to go do that. Like, yes, it's going to be more constrained. I used to, before the MBA, I would play hockey twice a week and play computer games and have a really active social life. When I was in the MBA, I was still able to go for a run a couple of times a week with friends, quite lengthy runs, play hockey once a week, and still have enough time for the work. So you do have to budget, but it's not this insurmountable mountain. And I think by being here tonight, you're already saying that you already have this capacity. It's just a matter of organizing around this program.
I totally agree, Erin. These, like, our participants today, they're missing out on like 28-degree weather on an evening in Vancouver. So Zach and Deanna, you guys are in different places now, but you know how much that takes, that they're not sitting on a patio right now. So all of you guys tonight are already kind of inclined to give up an evening to join us here tonight. So yeah, you're already inclined to do this. And I think, yes, Deanna.
Oh, no, I totally agree. And one more thing that someone shared with us, and I think it's come up in other sessions, is it's kind of, you have to pick and choose your battles. It's a kind of like a math equation. And if you're a perfectionist, I think you will struggle, to be honest. But the skill that we learn, because I was a perfectionist, is letting go, right? And starting and just getting things across the line, and there'll be 80% and that will be good enough. And it's actually kind of a motto that I go by in my professional life now as well. So I'm not holding things up and while other people are waiting to action things. But I think it's one of those things where you could spend all your time while you're in the program studying, and spend another 5-10 hours for 2% more grades or 2% more points. But really, is it worth your social life and your mental health and you're just kind of distressed? And I'm pretty sure someone at one point came up with an equation of how much time you're actually putting into it to get up an extra percentage point. But really, I hope that if you guys are considering this, it's not really about the percentage point. It's more about, like everybody said on the call today, it's more about what do you want to get out of it, and being open to opportunities and to learning new things with new people.
That's very well said, Deanna. And I think, and in other panels, people have mentioned, I think one of the professors, it might have been Steve, had mentioned like juggling. Like there's like 3 balls in the air, like life, school, and work, and you're always trying to juggle it, right? And sometimes you let one go, but like the idea is to pick them all up again and keep going. This program is like definitely one of the hardest programs you can do because you're always balancing all these aspects of your work life and school. And you can't really like afford to let one of them go. Like, let's say your health or well-being, like you need that. If you're not feeling good or you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to do well in your work or your school, the other 2 aspects. So it is a balancing act. And I think that's the reflections of our panel have kind of suggested that it is one of those balancing acts, but it's also capacity building as well. And then just knowing where to set boundaries on each one of the different elements that you are trying to balance in this kind of 2-year balancing act that you do. It is a challenging project, but you will come out at the end so much stronger with so much more capacity. We have a question here from Wayne, and it's an interesting one. What was it for any of you? Did you have a big shock or surprise about the program? Like any preconceptions going in that were dispelled as you went through the program? Any of you guys had that kind of experience or like change of mind or change of heart?
Good question.
Yeah, you had to think back.
I think one thing that stood out to me was just being good in school when I was in undergrad and high school and stuff, I was good with grades. And then eventually, while I was working at a startup and being in the MBA program, it really put me in that time crunch. So something what Deanna alluded to was getting it to that 80% was definitely helpful. So for me, it was a bit of a shock that and that was my personal learning, that how could I just be okay with getting it to that point and then letting it go? I think that was initially was the bad part of it. Like I didn't feel content. And by the end of the program, the understanding of how much it impacts everything else in my life and my career, learning that became the good part. So overall, I think just changing that 0 and 1 mentality or the black and white mentality to look at the gray really helped me. And I think that was the big thing for me.
Awesome, Prabh. Yeah, dealing with uncertainty for sure. Not being able to assign a certain number and be certain about it.
Exactly.
Yes, Joyce.
I can jump in. I think there's a surprise during the MBA and then also a surprise after the MBA. During the MBA, I think it was certainly being confident enough to know that I can fully pivot out of my traditional industry, which is psychology, right? And I didn't have any expectation going into the MBA, but just kind of blind optimism and probably a lot of naivete going, oh, business seems interesting. I feel like I should learn more about it, right? And to be then so supported by like all of my classmates, faculty, administrative staff, upper and lower cohorts, was just such a wonderful experience. And so that surprise and confidence, like, oh, I can learn a new subject. And that's really kind of built after the MBA in terms of like whether it's new sectors, transitioning to technology or not. And I find every year my knowledge actually compounds. And I actually gain more confidence that, oh, what I learned is still relevant. And I remember I was joking during the MBA program, oh, it's so light, it's generalist, all you do is surface level studies, and us being frustrated by that, right? But it's actually post MBA that you realize, oh, that's why we did it there. And everything sort of just continuously make more sense as you unpack it in every kind of iteration of my career. So I think it continues to surprise me how relevant the information I learned even 5 years ago is today and how I can keep building on that foundational knowledge.
Well, thanks, Joyce.
The other part was the surprise that I had a preconceived, I'm an introvert. And I was really worried about the group work component and being in a room full of very driven A types. And that really worried me. And the biggest surprise was how easy it was and how awesome everybody is to get along with and how everybody just has a common goal, right? Like everybody just survive, put your head down, work, get along. And there's always a common goal, which is the project that you're working on. So that was one of kind of my own issue going in. That was like a non-issue at all.
Here we have like 2 introverts joining us for a voluntary panel, Zach and Deanna. So, I mean, you could definitely, it's amazing you can overcome that actually, because being like an introvert, that's a real, like, it's a wired thing. So to be able to even overcome that and to volunteer for things like this it's a testament to how far and how much you can stretch your comfort level and adapt to different circumstances. So it's like so great to have you here and to have your perspectives. Great. So we are wrapping up to the last few minutes of our alumni panel. So I always like to take the last few minutes to just say, if you had a piece of advice for anyone considering the PMBA program, you know, looking back at your experiences, what would be like kind of the best piece of advice you would give to those considering this program?
I'll go first. So I think the MBA program it's a two-way street. And the more you put into it in terms of how much you want to learn in the different courses you take, your network, which is going to be it's going to be a primary and a very long-term driver in your career. And just being able to absorb multiple different perspectives is what it is going to give back to you. The more things you get involved in, don't just get bogged down by grades. At the end of the program, it's your learning and your experience and your takeaways that are going to matter. Grades are important. You just can't like swing it, but it still is very important that you nurture everything else as well. And going in with that kind of mindset is going to serve you really well. I think for my side, I was willing to go ahead and connect with my part-time class, connect with the part-time class, which was Deanna's and Aaron's, and make really good friendships there and network there, and also connect with the full-time class. And I think just having that kind of network gave me so many more perspectives, and I felt so much more fulfilled by the MBA program than just if I'd stuck to my class and thought of it just as coursework, then it would not have been as effective for me as it has been.
Yeah, I definitely echo what Prabh said. I'd probably summarize it by be present and be ready to put yourself out there and contribute. I think one of the early learnings that a lot of my class, myself included, had was that, hey, they're not as smart as I thought they would be, right? Or I've got just as much to contribute as they do. And over the course of, say, our cohort, and I love Deanna and the rest of my cohort, a lot of us actually, made a plan or wanted to make sure that we worked with every single other person in our cohort. Because, my number two takeaway or number two big thing from the MBA was the network and the friends that I've met have really stuck with me, and we've stuck together for the long term. And so that's put yourself out there and be ready to contribute.
Anybody else? Joyce.
Yeah, I'd say I'd encourage you to be vulnerable. I mean, by committing to this journey, you already are, but we all peak in different attributes, right? And so there's no way that you don't peak in any attribute, if that could be any words of encouragement. So I went into the MBA, didn't completely not knowing anything about accounting, and that was definitely, if it was trauma prod, that was also for me. First course, full back-to-back, Saturday and Sunday. Oh my goodness. And we did lose a few students that didn't come back for the next course, right? So that was a huge vulnerability. And I remember just looking back, and I still remember my classmates that sat behind me. And there was a CPA, there was a director of finance, and they were just like, Joyce, if you need help, we'll sit with you in lunch, we'll come and hang out in the evenings, and we'll make sure you get through this, right? And so I think when you can be vulnerable and showcasing where you need help, but then also be equally supportive in your strengths, and you build such great connections, and it just makes the experience just so much more engaging and fruitful. And that will absolutely come and help years later on. And I think everybody on this panel has shared how they've leaned on their network and also really supported their network multiple years after their MBA. So hopefully I can encourage you to be vulnerable. You're amongst very supportive groups of friends in this program.
That's a beautiful story. Thanks so much for sharing, Joyce. And it's not an isolated thing. That's something I hear every year. It's like these students helping each other, especially through those core foundational courses, like the finance and accounting courses. They're always so tough, but always people with that experience are helping others, which, sets the pace for building those connections and really building like foundational relationships, like people you can really count on. They're not just your contacts, but they're your friends, right? And those are people you can really count on socially, personally, and professionally as you move on through your career. So it's not an isolated case. I hear it all the time, and it's always something that I find is very amazing about these relationships that build in the program. So thanks for sharing your story, Joyce. Anybody else with some last tips for our attendees?
I would say try not to change jobs during the program. I did it 3 times. It was really tough. Like, it's doable, obviously, anybody can do it, but try not to do it, especially not at the beginning. It takes about 6 months to get into the rhythm, I found. And then the other one is, you guys met Marja today. Marja, the whole team at UBC is so fantastic. And they're really good resources there for like changing jobs. Like Marja gave me coaching on how to negotiate a contract. Like, I was on the phone with Marja, this is what they said. And so there's so much resources there. And we talked about this earlier, but like really try to pick and choose and like make this experience the experience you wanted, and don't expect that you're going to come out and make twice the money you made because you made this big investment. Like that's probably gonna be disappointed afterwards, but really try to look for those experiences and the value in other ways as well.
Thanks, Deanna. Any final words for our participants before we go?
I'll just reemphasize again that as somebody who was an introvert, didn't know where he fit in, I thought my place in an MBA was to be the smartest person in the room. That was what I was used to be doing. And I realized along the way that being the smartest person in the room doesn't necessarily make you the best leader or the best business leader. And I realized now the surprise that was bad was I didn't focus as much on relationships, as everybody here has again and again emphasized how much relationships work. And it's now 4 years out, 5 years out from the MBA, you realize the lesson again and again that the business world is not built on smarts. It's built on relationships. You will not get the opportunity again to go out with a bunch of random business students to drink and share an experience that I would not be able to pay Joyce enough to actually spend time with me. To go and have those same experiences. I got to talk to Joyce several times and look at where she is now. You have no idea where these people are going to go. That kind of shared experience that you get, that you're forced to be together and do these silly projects together. You're never going to get that chance to do that with somebody who's going to be a CEO 10 years down the road. And those are just invaluable experiences. So be present, like Aaron said, focus on the relationships, like Joyce said, really enjoy the ride.
That's amazing. Yeah, like, you know, those relationships you build, they earn you, not just like, I think more valuably, it's like those relationships, but it builds your currency with people that are going to be future leaders, right? Like those, the director of finance was earning a lot of Joyce dollars and helping you with those like simple questions. Right?
He's now a managing director at BMO, right? Like, and I'm a big fan of Zach too. So he's underselling himself, right? Like, look at Zach and where he is at Amazon, right? I'm just sort of a lowly public sector servant now, but I get to call these guys up and just be like, hey, how's it going? And they share, like, these are friends of mine that started, this is a story I tell all the time. One of my best friends from the program, we barely worked together, but we became really good friends in the program. When I first met her, she was dating her now husband, and now she has 4 kids. And I have seen all of her kids grow up, right, in those 5 years. It's a lifelong friendship that I treasure, right, every day. And it's because of this program. So yeah, it's really special.
Yeah, so so thank you all so much for joining us tonight and making time to share your experiences. Even with Zach doing Prime Days, it's boggling my mind that you're here. But I guess that's just the MBA work ethic. So thank you all for making the time and sharing your experiences. They're always so inspirational. I'm always blown away by like the changes I see in your careers, and like also like to be able to relay your stories and see the next generation of PMBA students find success as well. So thank you for being part of this journey, for being part of future PMBA students' inspirational paths. And I hope to see you again soon, maybe in person once this, it looks like COVID's rolling down. We've got some like good vaccination programs going. So I hope the next time we see each other might be in person. And thank you all again for making the time tonight to share your stories.
Thanks, Vivian.
Thanks, Vivian.
You.
Good to see you.
Good to see you all.
Nice to see everybody.
Bye.
Bye. So I'll just be staying online for a little longer for anybody else in the audience who might have some questions. If you do, just feel free to pop them into the chat or the Q&A, and I'll spend the next few minutes to see if I can answer further questions that anyone might have. I don't see any open questions here. And it looks like we are clear on the chat as well. So I'll let everyone get to their evenings then. So thank you all to our participants for joining us tonight and for making the time to learn more about our program. I'll be reaching out after the event with a follow-up email, and feel free anytime to reach out to me if I can help with any questions that you have. Thanks again.